Welcome back to the Gavel. Let's take a look at some other happenings in both chambers of the National Assembly, including the House of Representatives resolution to invite the Inspector General of Police and the Commandant General of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps over the recurring cases of accidental discharge by men of the two security agencies. Also, the House of Representatives is accusing the Senate of stepping down a bill which was passed by the House and reintroducing it as a Senate bill.
The Senate is asking the Federal Ministry of Aviation to immediately take steps to ensure that all persons arriving from China self-isolates by staying indoors in their homes for at least 2 weeks before mixing with the public. The upper chamber is also extending the call for self-isolation to travelers from other countries who are on record to be affected by the outbreak of a deadly disease.
From any country that has a major
These were part of the Senate resolutions reached after a motion raised by Senator Chukwuka Utazi on the outbreak of the coronavirus.
This Senate worried that China has put millions of people in 3 of its cities on lockdown in an effort to contain the coronavirus outbreak that has killed over 170 persons and infected more than 630, and health officials fear the number of infected people will rise rapidly as hundreds of millions of Chinese people travel within China and abroad during this week-long Lunar New Year holidays, which began on Saturday. This Senate comforted that the Federal Ministry of Health, through the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, a product of the 8th National Assembly legislation, has risen to the occasion and is closely monitoring this outbreak of respiratory illness caused by a new coronavirus. Accordingly, this Senate resolves to, 1, to thank the Federal Ministry of Health through the National Center for Disease Control for their gallant efforts at stemming the coronavirus infection in Nigeria, and urge them never to lower their guards on this until this fight is won internationally and here in Nigeria. And finally, as cleanliness is next to godliness and prevention is better than cure, Nigerians at all times are advised to wash their 2 hands with soap, with clean water, preferably from a running tap.
Can you usher the strangers into the chambers, please?
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives wants the federal government to declare a public health emergency in the country following the outbreak of the coronavirus. Even though the virus has not been reported in Nigeria, the lawmakers want government to take preventive measures to ensure that the virus does not make its way into the country. Raised as a matter of urgent public importance by the Deputy Majority Whip Nkiruka Onyejoja, the House expressed worry about the large number of Chinese nationals who left Nigeria to China to celebrate the Lunar New Year and are expected back in the country. Lawmakers want all the entry points into the country to be carefully monitored.
The House is aware that the World Health Organization has assessed the global rate of transmission of the disease as very high. The House is further aware that several countries have taken measures to prevent the spread of this virus to their countries or within their countries. Such measures include strict lockdown of cities, asking anyone who has returned from Wuhan in China in the last 14 days to self-isolate, to stay indoors and avoid contact with other people. The House have resolved to direct the Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigeria Immigration Services, the Quarantine Services, and the Federal Airport Authority and other relevant agencies to set up screening centers at all points of entry into the country to screen and watch out with the view of preventing the transmission of the virus into the country. Direct that all health institutions within the country to be on high alert.
At the last plenary session for the week in the House of Representatives, the Deputy Majority Whip once again raised a matter of urgent public importance, urging the House to take prompt action against the killing of innocent Nigerians by security personnel.
The House is aware that there have been several instances where the members of the security agencies had used the firearms for purposes other than the protection of lives and properties, including but not limited to discharging and shooting at public events, such as rallies, weddings, burials, etc., often for amusement or for wild celebrations.
Let security agencies try and fashion out in a public gathering, in a crowd, let them have a distance men that have rifles and guns will keep from where events or where the crowd are.
The House resolved to mandate its committees on police affairs and interior to invite the Inspector General of Police and the Commandant General of the NSCDC over the recurrent incidents of accidental discharge, which has mostly been recorded against the two security agencies. After the resolution, a lawmaker raised a point of order, drawing the attention of the House to a Senate bill on the creation of Federal Polytechnic Orogun, Delta State, which he said was similar to a bill on the creation of a polytechnic in Kwale, also in Delta State, which he sponsored but was dropped by the Senate. And in what appeared to be a retaliatory move, the bill is eventually stepped down until further interaction with the Senate.
I am soliciting this Honorable House and Mr. Speaker to step down this item 2 until such resolutions are reached by bodies of principal officer of both chambers in respect of this bill.
From my understanding, from what you said, the bill came up on the order paper of the Senate as a bill coming from the House of Representatives, HB, whatever it was called. And your position is that that bill was stepped down. The same bill was brought from the Senate for first reading in the House.
The Senate, during the week under review, resolved to probe the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) over the sum of $396 million expended on turnaround maintenance of the country's refineries between 2013 and 2015. The Senate's decision to launch the probe follows a motion raised by a federal lawmaker, Senator Yusuf, who says the refineries have remained in moribund state in the last 15 to 20 years and is almost reaching total collapse because of a lack of proper maintenance, with a poor average capacity utilization hovering between 15% and 25% per annum.
The Senate worried that such huge wastages and slippages amidst the nation's tight economy, if not addressed, may lead the country back to recession. And finally, the Senate is disturbed that the continuous deterioration of the refinery facilities to a state of near collapse could be as a result of contributory negligence on the part of the NNPC, orchestrated towards siphoning the economy through a disguised process referred to as under-recovery, with its attendant spending of huge funds aimed at sabotaging the effort of the federal government in its fight against corruption.
After presenting his motion, the Senate mandated its Committee on Petroleum Downstream, Upstream and Gas to carry out a holistic investigation on the turnaround maintenance expenditures and the current state of the refineries, as well as convene a stakeholders conference to find ways to revamp them. Finally, the Senate has confirmed the nomination of Dr. Kingsley Obiora for appointment as the Deputy Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria. The confirmation of a nominee was sequel to the presentation and consideration of the report of a Senate Committee on Banking by its chairman, Senator Uba Sani.
At the end of the screening exercise of Dr. Kingsley Obiora, the committee's findings were as follows. 1, that the nomination is in accordance with Section 8(1) of the Central Bank of Nigerian Act 2007. 2, that the nomination is to fill the vacuum created by the retirement of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria in charge of economic policy. 3, that the committee did not receive any petition against his nomination for appointment as Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. 4, that the nominee has a vast experience in international and domestic economy with a proven track record.
Now, before we end, here's something that went viral within the week after the swearing-in of 6 lawmakers, including the former majority leader of the House of Representatives, Ado Doguwa, following the rerun elections conducted the previous week. Mr. Doguwa was eventually retained as majority leader And during his thank you speech, this came up.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to let you know that with me today here are my 4 respected wives. Halima can stand up, please. 1. Uma, stand up. Binta, stand up. These 4 wives you have seen have produced 27 kids for me, and I'm still counting.
I must bring to the knowledge of this House a little anecdote, what you told me some time ago. You told me it was getting late. No, don't beg me. You told me it was getting late around 7 o'clock, and there were many children playing in front of your house in Kano, in your compound. About 8, 9. And you got worried and you went out. And you told the children, come on. What are you doing? Is this time of day? You people should go home. Go to your homes. And one of them said to you, Haba Baba, this is my house. So he was one of those 27 children. But unfortunately, I guess the more the merrier. You get my point. Continue.
Epic response from the speaker with a not-so-hidden message. And following the reactions that video has generated, it behoves on the speaker to ensure that the conversations on the floor are professional and as serious as they should be. Well, that's The Gavel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Remember, you can send feedback to thegavel@channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.